Hey everyone, and welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are starting in on doing a galvanized paint job of the grain bin. So everybody's got a paint roller, and normally I would prime this, but I was reading over the container on the galvanized paint and it doesn't really seem necessary. Also, it's the thinnest paint I've ever painted with. It pours out almost like water. It's really, really thin, so I don't know how well it's going to go. But the kids are obviously very messy with it. So they all have their old clothes on. They are dripping paint like madmen because they are rolling too fast. Our grass is very, very pretty because it splatters because it's so thin. So I've been teaching them, don't put much on your roller, work in small sections, but of course they like to skip around. Oh, don't let us forget, the door is over there for this bin. We took it off. So we have to paint the door too. So these were rusted pretty badly. They had been painted before at one point. So to match our old bin, which is, these are all Butler bins. It's a nice day. We probably won't get these set up this year. This trailer is full of oats and rye, and this trailer's full of hay. You're way too high, Miss Bethany. And you're under a ladder tray. That's not safe. You have to work in a different spot. Okay, get that spread out and work in a different spot. It's bad luck to walk under a ladder. Don't you know that? It's also not safe. I think that's why they say it's bad luck, because the ladder's going to fall on you. So let's get you down, Missy. Yep. You're very pretty up there. Little George is here having his little morning nap. It's about 10:30 in the morning. So it probably took about 30 minutes to get everybody rollers. Here's our paint. This is the aluminum paint from Menards. And it looks like it's called American Heartland paint, and it's oil-based. I believe they only have it in oil-based. They call it aluminum finish. So they had this for farm paint in red and white, and it was about $40 cheaper for this 5-gallon pail at Menards than it was at Tractor Supply. And at Tractor Supply they only had one. And if they ran out, we were going to have to hunt it down between others, so I didn't like that part of it either. So we went with this one. As always, I'm the one that does all the painting when it comes to this stuff. Look at that little stinker. She went right back up there. I need you down low so that you don't get hurt. I don't want to go to the hospital. Here you go. So we have little hand pails here, hand cups for when I go up high. If you load your roller right, you can get all the ribs and stuff, but they're having a hard time with that, so I'm going to have to go back. That's way overloaded, Murdoch. You're dripping. Remember. No, you can't leave that like that, because then you're going to have dried drip paints. Dried paint drippings. Also, this is really hard to paint because it's like painting and looking at a mirror at the same time. So what we can do is go around to the other areas and work in a different spot. So we're just going to have to move that ladder. So in my old peanut container, we save all these for in the shop, our coffee containers. And that is kerosene. And you can use mineral spirits kerosene. Kerosene works really great. It just wipes right off your hands. So we've got some old socks and t-shirts here that we use for rags. You can see Trey's pretty well splattered up already. Painting up high and it's splattering down at ya. So you guys work down low and I'll work up high. Unfortunately, I'm going to lose the lovely stencil work where it said Butler. I tried tracing it and you just can't see it through. So we're going to have to kind of recreate it. Let her do it. It doesn't matter if she's getting a lot of paint on it or not.
What happened? I tripped.
We got an audience for our painting. They're attracted to shiny metal things. I have pictures of them looking at themselves in the milk tank and the maple syrup evaporator. They use it as a mirror to check themselves out or to practice their dueling. They're attracted to the shiny metal paint in the grass. I've lost my work crew. Murdoch's still painting. The others got a little bit of wind. They got a kite up. This field is excellent for flying kites. They've been wanting to do it. Oh, that is not an untangled kind of job. Oh, what a mess. I think you're going to be able to run that with the tangle.
Hey, it's me.
Yep. He's got a planter. Probably planting some wheat. If he's planting something now, it's got to be able to go through the winter. So that means he's either planting rye or wheat or maybe hay. What are you doing? Don't run towards the kite. There's Jean. That's our neighbor. Little Miss Bethy out there supervising the kite flying. Is that her kite tray? All right, I'm gonna get to the painting so that the rollers don't dry out. Well, we're halfway around. We took a break for lunch. It's going a little slow because of the ribs. The kids kind of roll out, paint, and then skip to another section. I know. So Murdoch had mentioned that the sun's position looked like it was noon, but because it's now October, it was actually 1:30 and the sun is straight up. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess we didn't quite start it at 10:30. I started getting supplies and whatever, but I think we painted for about 2 hours. I think it would go faster, kind of without the kids, but they, this is how they left it. They've done quite well, actually. They just don't get the ribs, and then they have a lot of drippy paint. So it's going along. We've used about 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons of paint so far. And then, of course, the door. I gotta still do the door, but, so from one side of the cart to the other is halfway, so we're about there. See, I've just got that last section there, about 1.5 to 2 feet to be halfway. But I think this side will go pretty good. We've got a hand weed whacker that's not gas powered. Okay, thank you. And this one, unfortunately, I've got to do a bit of steel brushing with it, and I really don't want to do it with the battery powered drill because it's just going to run the battery out in a short amount of time. I think I can knock it off faster with just a hand brush. And I know there was a spot on here that I wondered if he wanted to tar it and patch it. But either way, I was thinking a really neat idea. We're going to set these up right here where this old hay pile is. Actually in front of this bin here. So they're going to stack out. And he wants to build a lean-to there. I can actually put chickens and ducks and any poultry in here for the winter time and have a temporary caged area for them to go out, or even let them free range and then go in here at night, and they would be totally safe and it would be totally fireproof for heat lamps and things like that. So I've heard of people making gardens in these concrete bin bases. These are going to set on cement blocks, so that won't be the case with this one. So, little baby's wanting his lunch too. But there's our halfway point. Hey everyone, so it's the next day. Not a beautiful sunny day. It's cloudy and yucko. They're saying possible chance of rain later, but I just figured I would go through. I am using a handy dandy cheapo paintbrush. They sell these by the multi-pack, 4 and 6 in a pack for like $1 a piece at Walmart and at Meijer. So it was like $4.97 for 6 brushes, and they had a 4 brush pack that was a lot wider ones. So I went through last night before dark because I was in no shape to do it completely, and I knew my arm would be tired to do it all in one day. Went through with my wire brush, and I knocked off all the roughest areas and just real quickly went over these lighter areas. But I realized this was under a walnut tree at the farm it came from, and the sides facing the tree were in the worst shape. And because they didn't get a lot of sun, the night dew would stay on it and keep it wet. So there was little circles where the night dew had formed, and then the rust dripping down to the next ring. So the worst areas, people drive like maniacs out here. Like literally, I'm in the middle of nowhere. That guy is not in a hurry to go anywhere. He's going the opposite direction of town. So I used all my little ladders. It's still sitting on the cart, so it made it real easy for me to get around the base and everything. This one finished really nice. I'm real happy with it. I don't quite know how the hand painting is going to go with this. As far as the brush, it's the primer's going on really good, and I'm using Rust-Oleum primer. I'll show you the can for that. But these worst areas obviously need a lot of primer, otherwise it's just going to come through. This is the one from the auction that we got a few years ago, and we've been using it to store beans for 2 years. And we did not paint this. This one was already painted when it came here. So I've just got little areas like this. So it's ready for a paint job. I don't know if I have it all in me to do all of this, especially because I've got weeds growing up. I'm having to weed whack and trim. But this one turned out really good. I have to find my yellow paint after they're moved because Bethy did some painting on my trailer, which was fine. The paint was still a little soft because it had been so hot that where the bins are sitting, some of the paint scraped off. So I'm going to have to get some more of that if I don't. And it was New Holland yellow to remind myself. I took 2 coats of paint and I only had 2 gallons of paint. So at first I used the John Deere, then the New Holland. But anyways, this is the start of the bins, and if I showed you on one of the walks, he put the bin tops way out there on a hay wagon. So he's going to have to bring those up during the weekend so that we can get them painted. Because if nothing else, I want to get them painted and then we can just store them in the barn. That's the floor of one of them right there. Because I don't quite know how he's going to handle doing the bases. But I'm seriously thinking about making a trip to Tractor Supply because they're discounting poultry. I was there the other day and they had corn crosses for $1.25, which I don't want. But some of the other breeds, they decided to start carrying them all year round. And I could raise the chickens in here with a heat lamp with no worry of fire. So I don't know if I said that already, but I'm thinking I might do that. So I'm going to get back to my priming. So I am so proud of myself. I got a little ambitious, and they had been forecasting rain around 7. So I thought, oh, I'll just go around. The primer was going on so well over this whole side that I had decided to just keep going around. At first I just kind of was screwing around with it because I wanted to mix it up. But I brushed it on. I had baby in the front pack. Basically, it's 3 different rings, here, here, and here. So I was able to get to a couple of ribs above on the 3rd ring without reaching up over my head. for safety with the front packs. In the past, they've always said don't bend over and don't raise your arms. So even though I have a newer front pack that doesn't say you can't do that, I just am accustomed to, you know, why take the risk. So yeah, I got a lot done on it. I'm super happy. I wish that my husband was home because it's strapped to the frame, and I undid the tension to try to shove it. They're really lightweight, but I couldn't get it moved. He, for shipping, propped the door open and had a strap on it so that it would not flap and not rub on the wheel. So I can't get behind there until he can move it for me. But the parts that were rusted, took a lot more primer than the rest of it. So this area slowed me down where the tree was at. But it's all primed. It looks totally bad right now. But I think it still looks better than it did. The neighbors are like, why is she skipping around? We've had a lot of traffic today. And it's actually Friday, so I think that's just been a lot of traffic too, because I'm sure there's probably a home football game tonight. And I'm at home being a little mommy, taking care of my baby. Here's little George. Georgie. Hi there. Hi, baby. So, yeah, I got ribs in the oven. I cook them on a low temperature, and then I take them out and put barbecue sauce on them in the broiler. I had to come back out because I wanted to check on the weather. It didn't rain. It has barely sprinkled, just a little mist here and there. But I left my ladder up and I didn't want it to get smashed or whatever, so I just laid it down. Real sloppy and lazy like. So tomorrow I'll have him push this back so I can hit that spot with the wire brush and the primer. And here's the inside. And I'll have him bring those tops out here so that we can lay them out and paint them as well. Okay everyone, I'm back at my painting. If you ever have painted with oil-based paint, you know it's really important to mix in between uses. If you ever buy a 5-gallon bucket of paint, even single gallons, it's really best to have the paint department shake that can, because that machine can shake it in the amount of time that it takes you to get your other supplies and save you the time of standing here mixing your paint. So, mine actually sat at home for a little while before I started using it, and it needed a good mixing again. So we bought, and we've always had, this bucket mixer, and it can be used for all kinds of mixing, but we use it for paint. You find them in the paint department. And you want the heavy duty one. They make a lightweight one that's made of plastic with like fins on it, and it's not as powerful for thick paint. So you can see here we have the oil standing on top. And this is my galvanized or aluminum finished paint. Not galvanized. But this is what you use when you want to paint your galvanized stuff to match. Our whole shop was painted with this at some point. It's highly reflective and it keeps your building cool because it just lets the heat that's hitting it radiate back out. Pick some flowers, Bethy? Yeah. They're nice. Okay. We have sunflowers or dandelions in October, huh? Yeah, and October. Little bit of pollen for the bees. Yep. So it's time for Mom to take a break. Trey has come out and he's gonna start in on painting. So he's gonna do this lower ring. I got the door painted, flipped the other door over back there and painted the bottom of it from last week's painting. The weather just really held me up on this, so I wanted to do as much today as I could. And all the upper ring has to be done with a ladder, so I went all around the upper ring, and it had to be done with a brush because of the ribs. So that part's a little slow, but it's time for me to take a break and have some lunch.
What are you guys doing?
And we've got the primer has sat for a week, so the paint is spreading really nice with a brush. You don't get the dripping and stuff that you do with the roller, so that's a lot more controllable. You just also don't get as much coverage. So like when they rolled the paint, I'm gonna have to go back over their areas to get areas. Remember to push hard. Don't just do it light. You're not kissing it, you're smothering it. Right? Don't kiss it with the paint. Mush it right in there. So it's coming along really good. It's super windy, so the paint's drying really nice. So I put my ladders down for my brakes so they don't fall and get bent. And I've got my hands all cleaned up so that I can take care of baby. I got this all power washed off, so all of that greenness from being under the walnut tree at its previous location is off of there, so I can get the top one painted till he can move it off, and then I can get to the bottom one. But who knows how long we'll have the good painting weather, and you got to do it over 50 degrees. So it's in the 60s today. Got sunshine and wind, so it's just coming right along. So I have an interesting thing that I do when I'm working in the yard in view of the road. So that corn there is on the opposite side of the road. And our road is only a mile long, but it's kind of a main road in and out of town in a kind of roundabout way, or out of town the other way towards the highway. So I didn't tell my husband that I was painting today, and I started with the upper ring, and I started on the front and went around so that I could work up high in case I had to have baby out here in the stroller or the front pack. And I am painting everything that you can see in the front because the sun, you know, setting in the west makes it hard to paint because that's glaring back in your eyes. And when I had painted the first bin, my face actually got a little bit sunburnt from having it reflect back on me. So I'm saving the backside to get this worst part done before the sun is like really, really on it. And secondly, I wanted to find out how fast my husband would find out I'm painting. So I'm working at it. I get to right about here and I get a text. What are you doing? So I didn't text him back right away because I was trying to finish this little area where the seams go together. Then I get a phone call. The neighbor said you were outside painting. So they could see from the road that it was painting. The reason I kind of do it too is so that if I get held up, then it doesn't stay like this, because I'd actually learned a new word a couple of months ago, blight. So blight is when things are looking bad, and we had a friend who had a farm and he had a very large propane tank, and the township was claiming blight, that it was ugly and hideous looking, and that he needed to build a privacy fence for it. So that's why a lot of places they have shrubs or little fencing things in front of their propane tanks. You're out in the country in the middle of nowhere. What does it matter? Well, you want to talk about blight? I've got stuff all over the place. We don't have a township township like that, it's pretty open in farmland, and farms have way worse conditions than what we have. The farm across the street has been vacant since we've lived here and falling down, and there's stuff everywhere. Our only difference is we have rusty old equipment. Most of it's running, but it's still rusty old equipment. So to not have blight be an issue at our farm, I try to paint anything within view of the road or keep things pulled down. He has a little low spot here that we park things, and then you don't see all of it so much. So that was just my interesting thing. I'm getting around this very fast. The kids only painted for a little while, so I'm not having to go back over their work much, which is very handy. You can see areas where they went over it with the paintbrush, and it looks slightly different than with the roller. So like right here, he hit it with a paintbrush, and we went over the seams. This one had some areas around the door. I see a little spot there I still got to get, but it's coming along really, really fast now that I'm not up and down the ladder. So I'm going to get back at it. I got my bin all painted for today. I went over and put a second coat on the door because I thought it looked a little streaky, which is just kind of the nature of the brushing it on. But I got it all complete, and I started on the roof just to empty out my paint. I was using a plastic coffee can as a paint cup, so I wouldn't have to carry around a very small, my little paint trimming things are only a quart. So tomorrow I can put the lid on it and paint all of that with it in place so that it's not dangling down and messing me up. So it used up my paint and got me started on my tomorrow job. Well, I got it all taken care of yesterday afternoon. I got my top painted. There's the second one on the underneath, but I can't get to that. It has to be lifted off with a backhoe bucket. So he's gonna have a neighbor come down and help him get this off. Our backhoe actually needs a starter right now, and he hasn't gotten to it. So my job here is about complete. So that's a great thing. Now I can move the pickup and get it unloaded.